Weezer, you are a troubled band. There is absolutely no denying that their first two albums, the Blue Album and Pinkerton, are fantastic albums and personally within my top 5 favourite albums of all time. Their first album perfectly related to the shy, geeky kids who listened to rock music and played stuff like Dungeons and Dragons. The outcasts could listen to it and relate with everything that Rivers is singing, and that's what makes the album hold up so well and is why it's pretty much a timeless album. Pinkerton moved away more into dark personal territories and is considered by many to be one of the most influential emo albums of all time. Everything about it is more serious and almost brooding in a way. The lyrics are dark and even just the general tone is much darker. There is a muddy sound to everything which really does create a certain mood throughout the record. Although it may not be an album that most fans of the first album could relate to, it contained some fantastic songs, and although it was hated at first and still to this day is hated by Rivers, I think it may be the band's best album. It's definitely their most emotional and powerful album. After this is where the band kinda seemed to start doing many missteps. The Green album strived to be a much catchier, more pop-placed album. The problem with this is that although there are a few really solid tracks on it, there isn't really anything to relate to and not much emotion in the songs either. Sure, there are songs like Oh Girlfriend, but I don't know, I just guess it doesn't pack as much personality as the song from Pinkerton, and as a whole the album is a massive step down from the first two albums. Their next album, Maladroit, kind of did a lot of what the Green album tried to do, but much better. It doesn't have the deepness of Pinkerton or the relatability of the Blue album, but it did have some really great pop rock songs. It's a seriously underrated album and definitely a hidden gem in their discography. The next few albums seem to follow a pretty terrible pattern. One album would be awful, the next mediocre, the next awful, and then the next mediocre. Make Believe was fucking atrocious, the Red album was incredibly forgettable, Raditude was easily one of the worst albums I've ever heard, and Hurley, well, I barely remember that album. The problem that albums like Make Believe and Raditude had was that they became way too pop-centric. This would not be a problem if done well, but it wasn't done well. Also, some of the songs they wrote seemed to be the complete opposite of who Weezer were. Weezer were never the cool, hip band, they were the neurotic, geeky band. So for them to sing songs like Can't Stop Partying where they're acting like the coolest cats to hit the club ever just really seemed not only lazy, but also the complete opposite of what the band stood for. While selling out and trying to find a bigger audience, they completely failed and alienated the audience that they had before. So in 2014, they decided to scrap that new pop sound and go back to making music that sounded like Weezer. Everything Will Be Alright in the end was the result and is by far the best album that the band has done since Pinkerton. The songs were quite personal and incredibly mature, especially when compared to what the band had done before. And now here we are again, 2 years later for another album. One that I was incredibly skeptical for. I loved Everything Will Be Alright in the end for the fact it felt like a rock album. The instrumentation at times could be pretty complex and has pretty much all of the best guitar solos that they've ever done. So when I heard Thank God for Girls, the first single from the album, I was incredibly scared, because that song in my opinion really is not good. It's one that completely divided people. I think everyone appreciates the fact that the instrumentation is interesting and different, but the lyrics are incredibly weird. They are really what divide people. Some people like how strange and different they are, but me personally, I cannot stand them. I'm happy that they are trying something different lyric-wise because lyrics have never been Weezer's strong suit. But the problem is, lyrics are not their strong suit. So when they try something different, it just kinda sounds awkward. The melodies are really pretty good and Rivers' voice is undeniably really good on it at times too. And you know what, there is definitely a catchiness to some of the song, mainly the chorus. But personally, I'm not a fan of it. It's not terrible by any means, and I mean it's way better than shit like Beverly Hills, but it's not great. Luckily, the rest of the album is much better. The album is basically a concept album. It's supposed to be kind of a summer LA beach album, and so as you'd expect, a large portion of the album is very pop-based. But luckily, there is a very good blend between elements of the pop sounds of something like Raditude and the rock sounds that we expect from them. It's really pretty cool to see them try something that they previously failed at once again and actually massively succeed at it. There are some incredibly solid tracks on this album, some like California Kids and LA Girls that are really great power pop / pop punk songs, both of which are incredibly catchy and fun. And also there's songs like Girl We Got a Good Thing and Jacked Up, which are basically full on pop songs with barely any rock elements at all. But what makes these tracks better than the majority of Raditude is that the instrumentation is really interesting and well produced, the lyrics are surprisingly good, and the melodies are unbelievably catchy and fun. The beat style definitely comes through really well on the album. Songs like California Kids, which is basically about being a kid without any worries and just having fun. And sure, maybe it's a bit weird for them to still be making songs like this well into their 40s, but the songs are just so good that I can definitely forgive them for that. You can tell at times that the album had a strong Beach Boys influence, especially on the chorus for California Kids, which has a very surf rock-esque falsetto section, and also Girl We Got a Good Thing, which definitely sounds like something Beach Boys could have done. The album also ends on a perfect note with Endless Bummer, a song which, as you can probably tell by the title, is about summer coming to an end. It's kind of a sad note to end on, but I think it's a great farewell track. A track that starts off almost as a 60s folk rock-esque acoustic song, and then blasts into the classic Weezer rock sound for the end. It is really a solid ending track. However, the album is definitely not perfect. I've already talked about how much I dislike Thank God for Girls, but there is another track that I'm not huge on, but that everyone else seems to love, namely Do You Wanna Get High? Look, I really appreciate the fact they made a very dark Pinkerton-esque song again, but here's the problem. This track is so out of place on the rest of the album. The album is a very bright and happy album, and then halfway through we get this very sour and dark song about River's drug addiction. It's not a terrible song by any means. In fact, if the whole album sounded like this, I would have been much more forgiving, but the problem is the rest of the album is the complete opposite. Sometimes that contrast of different tones can really work, but not here. As a whole, I would not say this is a perfect album. I would definitely not say that this is Weezer's best album. I think pretty much everyone saying that this is Weezer's comeback completely missed Everything Will Be Alright in the end. But it definitely is an incredibly solid album full of fun, catchy pop rock songs. The instrumentation is great, the production work is really fucking good, and the lyrics for the most part are some of the best they've ever done in my opinion. I'm really happy with this album and can definitely see myself listening to it a lot over the next few months. If I was to pick 4 standout tracks, I would definitely pick California Kids, King of the World, LA Girls, and Jacked Up. And the 2 worst songs would definitely have to be Thank God for Girls, Do You Wanna Get High? I give Weezer's The White Album a 9 out of 10.
Damn, Rivers, back at it again with the Ray-Bans. Damn, Daniel,